Welcome to I'm Your Target Demographic, and welcome to Comic Fights. This week, we have a fun one, so don't take this too serious, okay? I don't want this to be another Squirrel Girl versus Franklin Richards that people get really upset and passionate about. This is just a brainstorming session to see what would happen. So this week, we have Superman, the last son of Krypton, versus Doop. Now, some of you may not be familiar with Doop, and so we're going to cover both of these characters and what they can do, and then we're going to kind of talk out what this fight might look like. So let's start with the underdog, Superman. So Superman is empowered by Earth's sun. So the sun basically allows him to do all sorts of incredible things. So he is bulletproof, he's basically indestructible, he can fly, he is incredibly strong, he can move planets, he's fast, he's pretty much on par with the Flash, that he is incredibly fast. He can shoot lasers from his eyes, he can breathe frost, and so he can kind of freeze people in place. He has X-ray vision, he has super enhanced hearing, he can do all sorts of things. Now, the weaknesses of Superman. He is obviously weak to kryptonite, may not come into play. He can't see through lead, probably won't come into play. He is vulnerable to magic, which may come into play. He also is vulnerable to, basically he's reliant on the sun. So being somewhere away from the sun or being somewhere where the rays can't reach him will basically depower him. I'm not going to go too much into Superman because most of you have a fairly good cursory knowledge of what Superman can do. But now let's talk about Doop. Who is Doop? Or maybe what is Doop? Doop is a relatively new character in the long lifespan of comics that we found out is a creation of the US government during the Cold War. No one really knew for a long time if he was an alien, if he was a mutant, if he was a creation. No one knew what he was. His origin is still fairly mysterious, and the powers that he has, no one can really peg how he's able to do some of these things. Is it magic? Is it cosmic? No one really knows. Now, you might look at these pictures of Doop and you say, this is ridiculous. But Doop is incredibly strong. He has gone up against Thor and he had a chance. He can throw a punch. His strength is unknown, which means we haven't yet seen the max of his strength abilities. Defensively, he can regenerate. He can kind of explode and come back together. He can lose limbs. His brain can regrow. So anything that Superman might do to him, Doop can come back together. Doop, because he can come back together, can also change his form, and so he can change his size, his density. Sometimes people might go right through him. He can change all of that at will. Doop also has the ability to open up portals to a dimension that we call Doop Land, which is basically this abstract, weird world that exists that only he can kind of take people to and from, which leads me to believe that it's fairly inescapable. If there is a way to get out of Doop Land without his knowledge or consent, tell me in the comments, because that will definitely play a factor here. But as far as I know, he can send people there and shut the doors, which is terrifying. He also has a lot of powers that may not come into play here, but are just interesting. He can protect himself from psychics. He is unable to be displaced in time, and so you can't send him into the past. You can't do something like that. He always returns to when he's supposed to be. Doop also has a magic ability that I don't know if it'll come into play here, but he's been shown if someone else is using magic around him, he can harness that and also use that magic. That I guess would come into play if someone else was using magic around Superman. So I don't know if that's going to come into play here, but he's been able to use magic and, if someone else is around him. And lastly, Doop can harness the power of funk. This is weird. He's been able to play music and harness this ability, and he's defeated incredibly powerful people, and he's even defeated Satan, the devil himself. Now, not many people know a lot about Doop. The most knowledgeable person seems to be Captain America, because Captain America maybe saw some of these experiments or knows something about the government program that created Doop, and Captain America says that Doop has the ability to destroy the world, but he is too lazy and apathetic to do anything about it. So his attitude and his kind of mindset might maybe not put him at par with Superman, but he has those abilities if he were able to tap into them. So now I want you to get creative. And I want you to think, in what situations could Superman destroy Doop or get rid of Doop or do something, get him away? And in what situations could Doop take care of Superman? You know, if this was a fight, maybe not to the death, but to get rid of, take a piece off the chessboard, who would win? So I want you to have fun, don't take this too serious, but lay out what you've seen these characters do and what you think would happen in this fight. Which leads us to last week, where last week we put Lex Luthor against the Fantastic Four. And we have a comment here from Sam Murphy. Luthor can't afford to be anywhere near the Four during this fight. One precisely positioned force field would instantly kill him. He'd have to rely on other means, namely his creations. Thinking back to the standalone Red Sun story, Luthor was able to create a multitude of traditional Superman villains on his own, indicating that he has the capacity to do so here. Specifically, Bizarro, a near-perfect clone of Superman, would be more than a match for the Fantastic Four. So basically, if Lex is able to take care of Sue Storm, the rest is cake. You know, he's been able to create clones of Superman. He has a suit which is basically meant to fight Superman. So he has these incredibly powerful tools at his disposal if he can get rid of Sue or if he can stop Sue. So there's a couple ways that Lex could take out the Fantastic Four. So great comments last week. Use that creativity this week. Superman versus Doop, who takes it? Let me know and we'll see you next Friday.